I feel like maybe I should start a series of videos about like the last person on Booktube to read this book, because this is one of those books that I swear everyone has read and everyone has loved, and it's time I finally got to it. Hi everyone, Rosie here. Welcome back to my channel. I'm about to start a book that I have been so excited to read for close to a year now. I feel like I first started seeing people talk about Girl, Woman, Other probably around this time last year. I think was this when it was nominated for the Booker? I don't know. I don't actually follow literary prizes, but you know, it got nominated. It won, I think, right? I think it won. Then all of a sudden, everyone I was watching at the time was reading it. And ever since then, I've been like, I need to read this book. This book sounds amazing. I need to read it. And then I bought it in November, and I just haven't read it yet. Today is the day. I am starting Girl, Woman, Other by Bernadine Evaristo. I feel like I have such high expectations that I'm almost afraid, because when you expect so much, it's almost like it's so easy for it to disappoint, because I'm so sure that I'm gonna love this book that anything less than like blowing me away might make me feel like, oh, was that all? But no, I'm not gonna let that ruin it for me. I'm going to enjoy it. In case you haven't heard of it before, it's a novel told through 12 perspectives. So there's 12 chapters across 4 parts, and each part has a girl, woman, and other. I'm not totally sure who falls into the other category. That's one of the things I want to figure out. But we've got these 12 different characters, mostly women/girls. I think mostly Black and British is my understanding, but I'm not totally sure, because I just know that I'm going to love this without knowing too much about it. Basically, each chapter is one person telling her story, and I think, you know, there's characters who will show up as background characters in one story, and then many chapters later we'll get their perspective, and apparently it's like meeting a whole new character, and you get so much more perspective. I don't know how to put it into words other than it sounds like a book that I'm just going to like so much and that I'm going to enjoy so much. So I'm not going to talk about it anymore now. I'm just going to start reading and let you know how I get on. I've read the first chapter and I don't think I'm going to be disappointed. It's super intense. I'm kind of worried about the fact that I want to read it, like, not quickly, but I do want to get it read because I want to make this vlog and I have a date that I want it to go up. So I'm going to do my best. I think I'm going to read one more section tonight. But yeah, the writing is just very intense. It feels, I don't know if, it's not stream of consciousness exactly, I guess, but it jumps around. At least in the first chapter, it tells a large span of time and a lot of story in a fairly restrained number of pages. It wasn't a long first chapter, but there was a lot of content and a lot of character packed in there. I think I had heard that there's no punctuation, or like there's commas, but the sentences don't, you know, start capitalized and period. There's not formal paragraphs. It's just sort of sentence without much punctuation, which at first was sort of jarring, but I think it really adds to the punch of the prose. There's something about it that just pulled me in, and like I could not stop reading until I got to the end of the chapter, and even then I wanted to go right into the next chapter. Okay, 2 chapters in and like, wow, amazing, incredible, fantastic. The second chapter is the daughter of the woman who's discussed, or who the first chapter is about, and it's amazing because just when you think you know this woman, you see her from the other perspective. You see her from her daughter's perspective, and it's like you're looking at a totally different person, even though you know her from what you just read. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna love this book so much! That being said, I really want to read the last chapter in this part, so I'll have read a quarter of the book and have read the first 3, but I also know that I am slowly and carefully pulling myself out of a reading slump and out of just general some, like, not burnout. Burnout makes it sound extreme, but like drainedness? Yeah, I'm not burnt out. I've just been drained lately, and I'm slowly refilling the tank. I actually managed to do some Booktube stuff and enjoy it this evening before I sat down to read, and I don't want to push that. So much as I would love to read the last chapter in this part tonight. I'm gonna leave it for tomorrow just to like be extra gentle. I don't want to go too hard too fast because totally I could see myself staying up all night reading this book, and that is not what I need to do right now. I only read one chapter this evening and I thought about going on and reading the next 3, but I just read the 3rd chapter, which is the one about Dominique. And if you've read this book, you'll know that this chapter is a whole other level of intensity. I don't think it's spoilery. It's literary fiction. Is there other spoilers in literary fiction? I don't think so. Anyways, I'm not going to go into detail, but basically this chapter is about a woman who in her early 20s finds herself in an incredibly abusive relationship with another woman who uses... In today's language, I would call it like toxic wokeness. That's not a good way of describing it, but she justifies her abuse as, you know, I know more about feminism than you do, so actually no, you can't read that book because it's by a man, and how can you be a feminist if you're letting men's thoughts into your head? But it's not actually about that. It's about she wants to control everything that her partner's doing. So after that, I think I need a little break. I mean, it was incredibly done. It was chilling and fascinating, but I'm gonna take a little break and read something a little less intense. Another 3 chapters down, so I'm now halfway through the book, and I don't know what to say other than that, oh my god, I was totally right. I absolutely love this. I love the different perspectives because it means we see situations from so many sides, and we see so many different people's experiences, and seeing people from their inside view of the world versus the way the people in their lives view them is incredible. And I'm so heartbroken at certain sections and I'm so happy at others. And guys, this book, there's 2 chapters that I just read about a mother and daughter, which I think those are the ones that so far I connect with the most, or not connect with, but that I find the most interesting, just because they're such important characters in each other's lives, so we see the most overlap. Although I love the overlap between like random people as well, that's also fantastic. The relationships between parents and children in this book is phenomenal. One of my favorite songs of all time is Father and Son by Cat Stevens. Well, he working under the name Cat Stevens when he released it. I can't remember what the name he uses now is, but it's all about that. It's about that interplay between parents and children who can never really understand each other. And I mean, I'm only a child so far, I'm not a parent, but there's something about that type of storytelling that I just can't get enough of. And when it's done well, like it is here, I think it is such a thing of beauty. Just read the 3rd mother-daughter duo, and like, I've got one more chapter left in this section, but I have to come on because, okay, so it's going along, and we're seeing the contrast between lives and that sort of thing. It's all very good. There's an element that's coming in, and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting theme to explore. Oh, that's an interesting thought. Okay, interesting. And then it goes from like 100% to like 150% in like the last 5 pages, and I'm just like, whoa, did not see that coming. That was unexpected and like leaves me with so many questions, and I don't feel like we're gonna get them answered, but I want them to be. I want to know the other side of this story now. I want to know what was going on. What just happened? I must be sounding like a broken record at this point, but seriously, the characters in this book are phenomenal. You guys aren't surprised to hear this. This should not surprise me. There's a reason it won a major literary prize. But seriously, every time you think you have a sense of a character, I've just read a chapter about a character where 2 of the other characters have already interacted with her and already had their perception. And so from what they had said, I thought I had a feel for this character. And then you see inside her perspective and it's totally different and so much more complex and just phenomenally written than I could have expected. I also really appreciate that all of these characters feel like people. I feel like that's a cliche thing to say, but none of them feel good or bad. Some of them are more relatable or more sympathetic than the others, but they really all do feel like people making people decisions and people coping with people situations, no more, no less. I just finished the 10th chapter. Yeah, 10th chapter, which is about Megan/Morgan, who is assigned female at birth and then realizes in her teens/early 20s that she's gender fluid, and the chapter's really a lot about that, about gender identity, about all of that sort of stuff. And I don't know how to feel about this one, honestly. Part of me really, really liked it. I think some of the ideas and the questions that it raised are honestly some of the most interesting questions and ideas in the book so far, or at least the ones that I feel like I have read the fewest about elsewhere. But I'm not even sure if I'm right about that, and that might be because I honestly need to read more trans and non-binary authors and read more from those points of view. I also, I can't decide if I feel like the writing just wasn't quite as great in this chapter as the others. Not that it was bad, just it felt the least how people actually speak in this one, and the most like I'm reading what someone thinks people speak like. I know that sounds so dumb, but it's the only way I can put it. But then again, as I said, I need to read more from this sort of perspective, so maybe that's it. Maybe I'm not as used to reading they as I think I am, and that's making me feel like it doesn't feel as natural. I'm not totally sure. Either way, it was still a fantastic chapter, don't get me wrong. It was still super good. I'm just not as sure about this one. But I am glad it was here, and it was important that it was included. And I'm not saying I don't think it should have been. It was absolutely necessary. I've just finished the 12 chapters that are about, individual people. There's one chapter left, which is, I think, where it all sort of comes together and concludes, wraps up the web titans. I don't know. I'm gonna find out and I'll report back. But the last 2 chapters I read were just incredible. They're both about women who are significantly older than all the others. One of them is in her 90s in the 2010s, I guess, and the other one was born in the 1800s. It's a mother and daughter again. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I've never been older than I am. I've never been from another time. But I feel like Evaristo has really captured character and people who feel to me plausible within their times, while also being complex and not just stereotypes of what people were like in the past. Again, I'm not an expert, obviously. I haven't even read that many diaries or letters from people from that time, but I very much have this feeling that these feel like people who could exist. Yeah, I think it's really well done. I think I think it adds a really interesting side to the book that without these characters we wouldn't see. I mean, that's the case for all of these, obviously. They're all very different people, but having that significant age difference does make a pretty big impact. Well, that's it. I've read the conclusion. Actually, the last, the concluding chapter, and then there's an epilogue as well, which I did not expect. But, yeah, it's done. Was it amazing? Yes, absolutely. It was incredible. I loved it. I need not have worried about disappointment. Of course, why was I going to be disappointed? I knew I was going to love this, but it definitely lived up to expectations. I can't decide if I love that there's loads of things that are left open-ended or not. I think I like it. I think there's no way this could have wrapped up or tied up or brought everything together and concluded it without feeling forced. This book is so sprawling and natural, I think is what I want to say. It just feels very much like it's talking about real people and plausibly real storylines. And I think there's no way to wrap up everything that I would have been curious to see wrapped up without it just feeling like, okay, this is a total departure from the rest of the book. Because nothing else in the rest of the book follows that sort of style where everything's moving towards one neat conclusion. Everything else is, I don't want to say messy because that has a negative connotation, but very real and raw and lifelike, and it's not lifelike to wrap things up in a tidy little knot at the very end. I guess the only thing I have left to say is I can't wait to read more Bernadine Evaristo. There's actually several others of her books that I've been so excited to pick up, but I've been telling myself, no, read the one you have and then you can buy more. And now I definitely want to buy and read more of her books. Let me know down below, have you read Girl, Woman, Other or anything else by Evaristo? If yes, what did you think? Did you like it? What are some of your thoughts? If not, are you going to consider picking it up? I encourage you to because I think it's an amazing book. And as always, if you like this video, please give it a like down below. If you'd like to see more of my videos, please hit subscribe, and thank you for watching.